Before we begin, a brief history of feedback. I must tell you that before I moved into the field of training, coaching, and consulting, before I had a background in psychology, I had a real background in mechanical engineering. So I have an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. And the whole term feedback comes from a field called control engineering. So what happens is, there's a circuit or there is a process where something happens in the process. Just imagine this sort of circuit, and right at the top, there's something which is happening there, all right? And maybe that's a current passing, or maybe that's a certain level of resistance. And after that, you go back, and there is a feedback loop, which tells you how much of current passed, which tells you what is the level of resistance. And once you change it, and you say, I think I want it higher, or I want it lower, I want to increase the resistance. Eventually, this has to continue, and the resistance has to increase, or the current has to increase, decrease. There has to be some change that happens. And that's when you say feedback is complete. Let me give you a simple example. Just before I started this recording, our videographers who are right here behind the cameras, they looked at me and they said, is this lighting enough? Is it too bright? Is it too soft? And what they were looking at was for feedback. And then they looked at various things around and they said, is there too much shadow falling on this side? And all this is feedback. And after that, they go ahead and change the lights. They make it brighter, they make it softer, or they keep it, or they change the positions, or they keep some of them where they are. And after this, they're going to check the shadow again. After this, they're going to check how you look again and how light is reflecting off your face. And if they're happy, that's the point at which they stop. Now, that's exactly how feedback works. And I see a lot of leaders doing this. They see somebody at work, and they say, okay, I think this guy needs to be given some feedback. And they go give that person feedback, and then they forget about it. And then, how do you know whether that worked or not? The only way to know is after you've given your feedback, that person has to do something different. So if you feel there's an executive who's talking to customers on the phone, and the way in which he talks is not good enough, maybe just the voice tonality is too bland, there's no voice modulation. And you tell this person, look, I just watched the way you spoke to that customer, and I'm not happy with the way you used your voice. I think you can do a lot more with your voice. And then you walk away. Now, what happens later? Is this executive talking to the next customer using better voice modulation? If he isn't, then that wasn't great feedback. If he is, then I think your feedback sort of worked. And also remember that feedback is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. You keep getting feedback, keep getting feedback. It's like if you were losing weight and you were 95 kgs, and then you start walking. So you stand on the weighing scale, and then you walk for a week, you exercise, you do your cardio, you stand on the weighing scale. The weighing scale is giving you feedback. And if you're not dropping as much weight as you'd like to, then you've got to go back and do something else. Perhaps change your diet, drink more water. Maybe start jogging instead of walking, and then stand on the weighing scale again. So that's the sort of process that feedback involves. So important things to keep in mind. Feedback means after your feedback, the person has to go and do something different. There has to be a change in behavior, and eventually there has to be a change in performance. And as long as that's not done, then the feedback is incomplete. And the second thing, it's an ongoing process. It's not a one-shot thing. It might almost never be a one-shot thing, and that's all right. That's the nature of feedback.